Hello everyone, this is the Afro Avenger back with Afro Avenger Music Reviews, taking back good music for good music's sake. And what I'm going to do right now is a long-awaited video. It is my top 10 albums of this year so far. I know it's a little late, it's already July, almost into August, but I've been really busy, so I haven't really gotten a chance to make a lot of videos like I have. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right now and get this out of the way. But yeah, let's stop wasting time. This is totally unscripted, so I'm going to go off of stuff that I remember, things like that. So yeah, top 10 albums of this year so far. My top 10, my personal favorite top 10, not, you know, like what I think was the best, just stuff that I really enjoyed. So yeah. At the number 10 spot, we have Too High to Riot by BluntedBeatz. This was one of the better, probably one of the best hip-hop albums of this year so far, in my opinion. Definitely one of my favorite hip-hop albums from this year. The production is amazing, the beats, tons of great lines over like trap-influenced beats, and yeah, a really great hip-hop album from this year. So yeah, Too High to Riot by BluntedBeatz at number 10. The next album is Curve of the Earth by the BluntedBeatz. This album was fantastic. Honestly, I would put it higher, but there were some albums that I liked a lot more. But this was a fantastic album. It's kind of like indie rock mixed with like psychedelic rock, psychedelic pop, kind of like a progressive rock sort of But it's a great album. I definitely recommend you check it out. So yeah, Curve of the Earth by the BluntedBeatz. In the number 8 spot is Lemonade by Beyonce. This album honestly was a total surprise for me in terms of Beyonce. Not a huge surprise, honestly, because Beyonce has kind of been progressing a lot over the past few years with her music, especially after her self-titled album came out, and it was like a huge, step up for her in terms of like her musical style, like her style and her influence. But this album really just blew anything before out of the water with Beyonce. It's like it's totally diverse. It goes to like a whole bunch of different genres, like trap music and hip hop, country music, psychedelic rock, rock in general, pop music, R&B, stuff like that, soul. It's an amazing album. But maybe it was a little bit too hyped up at the beginning, because like after my first listen, it blew me away. But after a few more listens, it kind of wasn't. It didn't have the same effect as it did before. And it kind of became more or less okay, I guess. But overall, it's still a great album. I definitely recommend if you haven't listened to it. Yeah, number 8 is Lemonade by Beyonce. At the number 7 spot is A Sailor's Guide to Earth by Sturgill Simpson. This album was unlike anything I'd heard before. Well, I can't really say that, but it was very unique for its time, for this time period where you don't hear a lot of that kind of stuff anymore, where it's like psychedelic folk, psychedelic country music. That's pretty much what it is. It's like a mixture of like folk and country with psychedelic rock, and that's a really, diverse blend of two rather different genres. And you heard a lot of that during like the 60s and maybe like the early 70s, but not so much in 2016. So it was a very different, very unique blend of those genres and those styles of music, and it came together really, really well over this the course of this record. And I think this record is probably one of the best of this year. Maybe I would go as far as say it's definitely, in the top 5 albums of this year so far. But as for me personally, it comes at number 7. So yeah, Sailor's Guide to Earth by Sturgill Simpson. At the number 6 spot is Human Performance by Parquet Courts. All I really have to say about this album is that you would love this album if you're a fan of bands like The Velvet Underground. And they're one of my favorite bands. But this album is basically a mixture of like experimental indie rock with some like pop punk, well, not pop punk, but like art punk sort of, some very experimental chord progressions, things like that. But it's very lo-fi, and it's good for if you like more lo-fi kinds of indie rock. It's perfect for you if you're a fan of bands like Velvet Underground again. So yeah, Human Performance by Parquet Courts. In the number 5 spot is Post Pop Depression by Iggy Pop, which features Josh Homme on production, who is from the band Queens of the Stone Age. And this album, again, kind of like Human Performance, is kind of like an art punk sort of album with like some garage rock and just kind of indie rock, and of course the typical punk rock style of Iggy Pop. He's considered one of the greatest punk artists of all time. So a lot of that transfers over to this album, and it's a very interesting journey through this album. It's very emotional. It's a great Fantastic. The instrumentation is amazing, and Iggy is just really letting loose on this album. Even though he's he's getting pretty old, but he's still. It's like he never lost his touch. Is a thing, and that's what makes this album really great. Is that you have like the king of punk rock, and it's like he never he never changed. It's like his flair, his fire is still there, and he's just as passionate about music as he was back then when he was really big. So yeah, Post-Pop Depression by Iggy Pop. In the number 4 spot is Moth by Chairlift. I recently reviewed this album and talked about how great it was. It's an album that's really good if you're into albums that combine a bunch of different styles of music. It's very diverse, and if you're into that kind of thing, this album was perfect for you. It blends a lot of like 80s style electronic rock and new wave with a lot of modern stuff, a lot like hip hop style beats, like indie rock. It's really just diverse, and I definitely recommend you listen to it if you haven't. It's a great album, and you won't be disappointed when you hear it. At the number 3 spot is The Life of Pablo by Kanye West. Now, this album is easily the album that I listened to the most this year. I listened to it literally like maybe every day, maybe every other day, and it would probably be my number 1, but there were 2 albums that I liked more than that, more than this record. But The Life of Pablo is just an album that I really love listening to. A lot of the tracks on there are great. I know a lot of people probably don't like it very much. A lot of people say it's not really that great, and that it's one of Kanye, well, maybe not one of Kanye's worst, but it doesn't live up, I guess it didn't live up to the hype that it was building, because it built up like a huge amount of hype over several years. But overall, I think it was a fantastic album, very incohesive, which kind of got a lot of people, talking about it in a negative light. But despite it being, like having no cohesive nature at all, and it's very jumbled, it's a jumbled mess of an album, but the music on it just makes up for it, immediately. It's a great album with fantastic music that pretty much blends everything that Kanye has ever done onto one record, and that's what I think makes it so great. Kanye is rapping again. He has a lot of classic lines, a lot of controversial lines too, but I think he has a lot of great lines. He's picked up the pen again and shows, that he's still a great artist. So yeah, number 3 is Life of Pablo by Kanye West. In the number 2 spot is Black Star by David Bowie. This was David Bowie's final album before he tragically passed away. And the interesting thing about this album is that he knew, like throughout the entirety of the album, he's just, talking about how he knows that his death is coming, that it's impending, and he's coping with it. It's like the whole album is just him coping with the fact that, he's going to die very, very soon. In fact, he died several days after the album was released, which just goes to show how soon he knew he was going to die. And that's what makes it really sad, because, when the album was released, a lot of fans were confused, about the theme, about why David Bowie was so stuck on the theme of death. Even though death is a very common theme in music, but he was so stuck on it. And then, he passed away, and it made a whole lot more sense as to why he was talking about death so much, especially, his death. His music videos showed, a lot of his music videos for the album showed him basically dying, sort of. Like in the video for Lazarus shows him like going into what appears to be a coffin, even though it's like it's a closet, but it's like him going into a coffin. And it's a very sad album. It's very sad, but the music on it is amazing. It's amazing music. It's like a mixture of like indie rock with like experimental jazz, stuff that David Bowie didn't really touch a whole lot. Like in the 80s he was more into, 70s and 80s he was more into like, glam and just, straight rock music and pop music and like dance rock and stuff like that. But on this, it's very experimental, and it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful album, and I definitely recommend, if you haven't listened to it, you have to listen to it. And it is easily one of the best of this year, easily. So yeah, number 2 is Black Star by David Bowie. May he rest in peace. Now, before I do the number 1 spot, I'm going to recap on the positions that I already did, as well as give some honorable mentions. So first, we're going to do the recap. Number 10 is Too High to Ride by Boz. Number 9 is Curve of the Earth by Mystery Jets. Number 8 is Lemonade by Beyonce. Number 7, A Sailor's Guide to Earth by Sturgill Simpson. Number 6, Human Performance by Parquet Courts. Number 5, Post-Pop Depression by Iggy Pop. Number 4, Moth by Chairlift. Number 3, The Life of Pablo by Kanye West. And number 2, Black Star by David Bowie. And the honorable mentions are My Wild West by Lizzie, Emotional Mugger by Ty Segall, Death of a Bachelor by Panic at the Disco, Bottomless Pit by Death Grips, Painting With by Animal Collective, Need Your Light by Rah Rah Riot, Anti by Rihanna, 3001 A Laced Odyssey by Flatbush Zombies, Coloring Book by Chance the Rapper, which is technically a mixtape, School of Seven Bells, their self-titled album, Dystopia by Megadeth, and Untitled Unmastered by Kendrick Lamar. And now for the number 1 spot. The number 1 spot for my top 10 albums of this year so far is Malibu by Anderson .Paak. Now, I honestly believe that this might be the best album released this year, and it also is my favorite. Of course, it's number 1, duh. But this album it just blew me away when I first heard it. It put me in such a good mood. It's some really feel-good music. It's like a blend of hip-hop and soul and R&B and neo-soul and funk. It's so groovy. The music on it is amazing, and like The Bird, which is the first track on the album, just reeled me in so quickly that I just wanted to listen to it all the way through. I didn't want to stop. The Bird was a perfect opener for an album like this, and it just really makes you want to listen to the whole thing, you know. Anderson .Paak had been making some waves, working with Dr. Dre on, you know, his Compton album, but, you know, this proved that Anderson .Paak is a fantastic artist all by himself. You know, Anderson .Paak, I wish the best to him with his career. This album was amazing. It's so good. You have to listen to it. I honestly think it's one of the best. In fact, I think it's the best of this year so far, unless something else comes out and beats it within the next couple of months. And I really hope that it gets not that it matters too much, but I really hope it gets nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys, and hopefully wins, because it's an amazing album and it definitely deserves, you know, to be, you know, recognized as such. It's fantastic. I can't sing its praises enough. You have to listen to it. So, yeah. Number 1 is Malibu by Anderson .Paak. So anyways, that does it for this video, this top 10 list. The next time I'll do one like this one, where I do like top 10 albums of the year. Will probably be around the end of the year, around New Year's, so I can kind of, you know, gather up all the albums that came out, or as many albums I listened to this year, and decide which ones are my all-time favorite for this year. Things might change, they'll probably change, of course. Things might stay the same, who knows. Something better than Malibu might come out, something better than Black Star and Post-Pop Depression or whatever might come out, and I might enjoy those even more, but we'll see. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, also subscribe if you want to see more, and of course, as a review channel, if you want to see you know, a song or an album reviewed on this channel that you like or may recommend, just leave a comment down below, or check out my Facebook or my Twitter. The links are in the description. But anyways, I will see you all in the next video, which will hopefully be sooner than later. So long.